You shall keep the Sabbath holy. But how am I to keep the Sabbath holy? Dear brothers and sisters, today's Gospel is taken from Luke chapter 6 verses 1 to 5. Here we find the incident where the Pharisees accuse Jesus and his apostles for breaking the law. The apostles, as they were passing through the cornfield, plucked some corn and ate. In fact, the disciples plucking the corn was in itself no crime. Deuteronomy chapter 23 verse 25 states, "When you go into your neighbor's standing grain, you may pluck the ears of corn with your hand, but you shall not put a sickle to your neighbor's standing grain." In fact, it was a merciful law which helped the poor, the needy, and the hungry. But on the other hand, it was forbidden on the Sabbath day to do any laborious work. Leviticus chapter 23 verse 7. According to the Jewish tradition, the laborious work included reaping, threshing, winnowing, and preparing food. Technically, the disciples had broken this tradition. By plucking the corn, they were guilty of reaping, by rubbing it in their hands of threshing, by blowing away the husk of winnowing, and by eating, they had in fact prepared the food and also ate it. This passage sheds light on the mindset of Pharisees and how they looked at the law and applied them on others, especially on the ordinary people. Now, how does Jesus tackle this precarious situation? Jesus, in fact, reminds Pharisees of the acts of mercy which they had forgotten in their overzealousness of protecting the rules and regulations. Though Jesus refers here to the incident that took place in 1 Samuel chapter 21 verses 1 to 6, when David and his men, when they were hungry, ate the bread of the tabernacle, we must understand it from a larger picture of the act of mercy. Jesus here is not directly providing bread for the hungry, rather he is protecting the ordinary men from the hypocrites. The Pharisees here are fighting for the third commandment of the Decalogue, which states, "You shall keep the Sabbath holy." But how am I to keep the Sabbath holy? The answer is through love. As a baptized disciple of Christ, I am called to keep the Sabbath holy through love. Jesus gives two dimensions of love: love of God and love of neighbor. If all my prayers, celebrations of the Holy Eucharist, and devotions reflect the love of God, it also must be complemented with the love of neighbor. In the light of today's Gospel, I must ask myself, do I become like the Pharisees in accusing others of breaking the law? Or in my overzealousness of protecting the law, do I behave rudely with others? As we reflect on this passage, let us ask the Holy Spirit to enlighten us with the right judgment and discernment, so that we may not accuse others, but be merciful and kind to others.